I didn't call for help right away. Pause, not because I didn't need it, but because I couldn't understand what had just happened. The room was filled with smoke. Thick. Bitter. Burning my throat. I remember tasting metal. I remember heat on my skin. Not pain yet. Hustpressur, like the air itself, was pushing against me. Then I heard myself coughing. Hard. Wet. That's when I realized I was alive. See, my name is Elena Morales. I was 39 years old that night, and I was standing in what used to be my family's printing warehouse, just outside Port Devon, a coastal city in northern Chile. I worked there as an operations planner, not because I loved the job, but because it kept the family together. Soft pause, I stumbled toward the office's phone. The lights were gone. The emergency alarms were screaming, then suddenly stopped. I picked up the receiver. Nothing. So I used my mobile. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped it once. Then twice. Finally, I managed to dial emergency services. Fire response. What's your situation? I tried to answer. Nothing came out. I cleared my throat. There's been an explosion, I said. Slow. Strained, I think. I think I'm burned. The operator asked where I was hurt. I looked down. My sleeve was melted into my skin. My cheek felt tight. Wrong. I don't know, I said. My face. My arm. Pause, then the question that stopped my heart. Is anyone else inside? I swallowed. My father, I said, and my brother. Silence on the line, just long enough to feel dangerous. They're not answering, I added. I can't find them. Deep breath. Sirens appeared outside. Minutes later, red light flashed through the smoke. Firefighters pulled me out just before the roof collapsed. I kept asking the same question. Did they get out? Did they make it? No one answered me, because inside that building wasn't just fire. There were secrets. And by morning, the Morales name, once respected, once powerful, would mean something else entirely. Paus. This wasn't an accident, and I would spend the rest of my life proving it. I woke up to the sound of machines. Pause. Beeping. Steady. Too calm for what I felt inside. My eyes burned when I opened them. The ceiling was white. Haspa for white. The kind that makes time feel flat. A nurse noticed I was awake and leaned over me. Don't try to speak yet, she said. Soft. Practiced you're safe. Safe. The word didn't fit. I tried to move my arm. Pain exploded through my shoulder and down my side. I gasped and immediately regretted it. Say they brought you in with second-degree burns. The nurse continued. Smoke inhalation too. You're lucky. Lucky. I stared at her. Where's my family? I whispered. She didn't answer right away, and that post, that tiny hesitation, told me everything. Pause. The man came in next. Not a doctor. Plain clothes. Notebook in hand. Ms. Morales, he said. My name is Inspector Rafael Ibarra. I'm with Port Devon Fire Investigations. I nodded slowly. I need to ask you a few questions, he said. But first, I'm very sorry. There it was. The sentence people use when there's no fixin' what comes next. My father? I asked. He shook his head. My brother? Another shake. I closed my eyes. Not crying yet, just empty. Pose Inspector Ibarra told me what they'd found. My father, Luis Morales, 62, former dock supervisor, turned business owner, found near the loading bay. My younger brother, Mateo, 34, logistics coordinator, father of 2, found in the main office. Neither made it out. The fire wasn't the cause. That part came later. What caused the explosion? I asked. Ibarra hesitated. That's what we're trying to determine, he said, but there are things that don't line up. I opened my eyes. Like what? He flipped a page in his notebook. The fire started in 3 separate locations, he said, within minutes of each other. Pause fires don't do that. People do. And, he added, the security system was disabled from the inside. My mouth went dry. You think this was intentional? I said. He didn't answer. Instead, he asked, who had access to the warehouse after hours? I thought of the keys, the codes, the people we trusted, and suddenly, the smoke wasn't the thing choking me anymore. It was the realization that whatever killed my family didn't come from outside. It came from close. Very close. They didn't let me leave the hospital that day. Pause, doctors said. My lungs needed rest, that my burns needed monitoring. But the truth was, they needed time to understand what had happened, and maybe who had caused it. Inspector Ibarra returned that afternoon. This time, he brought photos. He warned me first. I told him to show me anyway. I needed to see it. See. The warehouse didn't look like a building anymore. It looked like a skeleton. Metal beams twisted, concrete cracked open. Everything familiar, erased. Ibarra pointed to a darkened corner near the storage cages. That's where the first ignition happened, he said. Another near the office, a third by the loading bay. I stared at the images. That's where my father worked late, I said, and that's Mateo's desk. I swallowed. Someone wanted them separated, I said quietly. Ibarra didn't argue. Paused, then he asked about access. Who had keys? Who knew the alarm codes? Who could move around the building without raising suspicion? I started listing names, employees, former contractors, family, and then I stopped. There's someone else, I said. He looked up. My uncle, I said. Hector Morales, my father's younger brother. Once my father's business partner. Once trusted. Now distant. I explained how Hector had left the company 2 years earlier. A bad split, arguments over money, over control. He said the company was being mismanaged, I said. That my father was too careful, too slow. Ibarra wrote it down. Did he threaten anyone? He asked. No, I said. Not direct. But I remembered the way Hector used to look at Mateo, like he was in the way. Pause that evening. My mother arrived. Sofia Morales. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older. Broken in a way I'd never seen. She held my uninjured hand and didn't say anything at first. Then she whispered, "They're gone, aren't they?" I nodded. She cried, silently. Shoulders shaking, no sound. I held her hand tighter. Pause later. When she thought I was asleep, she spoke to a nurse in the hallway. I told Luis this would happen, she said. I told him we needed to stop trusting people who wanted what we had. I opened my eyes. The words stuck because my mother didn't sound surprised. She sounded resigned. The next morning, Inspector Ibarra returned again. This time, his tone was different. We found traces of an accelerant, he said. Industrial grade. Not something you buy casually. My heart dropped. That means I started. It means someone planned this, he said, and they knew exactly what they were doing. Paul's eye leaned back against the pillow. Tafaya wasn't an accident. The explosion wasn't random. And the person responsible was someone who knew our lives. I didn't expect the first lie to come so fast. Pause. Inspector Ibarra returned just after sunrise. This time, he wasn't alone. A woman followed him into the room. Early 30s, sharp eyes, calm posture. This is Detective Marisol Vega, he said. She's handling internal timelines. She nodded once, no smile. They asked me to walk through the day again. Slowly, minute by minute. So, primera. I talked about the morning emails. The late shipment, Mateo's staying behind to finish inventory. Nothing new. Then Vega leaned forward. Who locked up that night? She asked. My father, I said without thinking. He always did. She glanced at Ibarra. According to the logs, she said, the alarm was armed at 9:42 p.m. That didn't sit right. He wouldn't have been there that late, I said. He hated working past 9. Vega slid a tablet toward me. There's more, she said. Pause security footage. Grainy. Black and white. A figure entering the warehouse at 9:80. No face visible. Baseball cap hood up. But the walk. I knew that walk. My chest tightened. That's not my father, I said. He limped. Old knee injury. Vega nodded. We thought so too. Pause then, she said it. The alarm was disarmed from inside at 11:06. My throat went dry. That's impossible, I said. Everyone was gone. Not everyone, she replied. She turned the screen again. A name appeared. Elena Cruz. Our office manager, the one who had worked with my family for 15 years. The one who brought homemade food every holiday. The one who called my father sir even when he begged her not to. She had full access, Vega said. Keys. Codes. Schedules. No, I said. She wouldn't. I stopped myself, because that wasn't what Vega said next. She claimed she left at 6 o'clock, Vega continued, but her badge was used again at 8:57. Pause, my mind raced. Elena stayed late sometimes. Primera Said weekly. She helped with payroll. Vega didn't argue. She also withdrew a large sum from her savings 2 days after the fire. That hit harder. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because Ibarra said softly, she was the last person to see your father alive. Silence. I closed my eyes. I saw Linnea smile. Her laugh, the way she used to scold Mateo for leaving his coffee mug everywhere. It didn't fit. None of it fit. Bows. Later that afternoon, my mother visited again. I told her about Elena. She went very still. Then she said something I'll never forget. Elena was afraid of your uncle, she whispered. I looked at her. She told me once, my mother continued, that Hector said the business would collapse, with or without us. Puss, that was the moment I understood. This wasn't one lie. It was a chain, and someone had started pulling it long before the fire ever burned. I didn't sleep that night. Soft breath. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the fire again. Not the flames. The silence after. Pause the next morning. Inspector Ibarra called. We're bringing Elena in, he said. Voluntarily. For now? I drove to the station myself. My hands shook the whole way. Elena was already there when I arrived. She sat perfectly straight. Hands folded. Eyes red, but dry. She looked smaller. When she saw me, her face crumpled. Oh, Sophia, she whispered. I was hoping you wouldn't come. That hurt more than I expected. Pause. They let me sit in, not to speak, just to listen. Detective Vega started gently. Elena, you said you left at 6, she said, but your badge says otherwise. Elena swallowed. I forgot my purse, she said. I came back for it. Vega nodded, and stayed nearly 3 hours. Elena hesitated, tense aside. I was scared. Bitov, what? Vega asked. Elena's eyes flicked to me, then away. Hector, she said. My stomach dropped. Pause, she told them everything. How my uncle had been pushing her, asking questions about insurance, about debts my father had hidden from us. He said the warehouse was sinking us, she said. That if something didn't change, we'd all go down with it. Ibarra leaned forward. Did he tell you to start the fire? Elena shook her head fast. No. Never that, he just said. Make sure you're not inside when it happens. The room went cold. Pause.
I stood up.
That's a lie, I said before I could stop myself. He wouldn't. Elena looked at me then. Your uncle was desperate, she said softly. And desperate people say things they don't mean, until they do. Silence Vega slid a photo across the table. A gas can. Melted at the edges. Your fingerprints are on it, she said. Elena's shoulders collapsed. I didn't light anything, she sobbed. I swear. I just left the door unlocked, like he asked. That was it. That was the moment. She hadn't killed my father, but she had opened the door for someone who did. Pause. When they led her away, she reached for me. I thought it would scare him, she cried, just enough to stop him. I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold her either, because fear docente, excusa fire. And loyalty doesn't excuse death. Pause that night. Inspector Ibarra told me the truth. They were no longer asking who caused the fire. They were building a case around why, and all roads now led to one man. My uncle. They brought Hector in the next afternoon. I wasn't supposed to be there. Inspector Ibarra told me to go home. I didn't listen. Paul's Hector walked into the interview room like he owned it. Clean jacket. Steady steps. That same half-smiley he always wore at family dinners. He nodded at me. Hey, kid, he said. Rough week. My jaw tightened. Silence, Detective Vega. Didn't waste time. Hector Morales, she said. You knew the building was insured. He shrugged. Everyone knew that. And you knew the policy paid triple if the fire started after midnight, she continued. Another shrugged. Business basics. Paz Vega slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos. Bank statements. Missed loan payments. You were drowning, she said. Your sister wasn't the only one. Hector leaned back. Lots of people struggle, he said. Most don't end up in an interrogation room. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Pause. Then Ibarra spoke. Your phone pinged near the warehouse at 11:42 p.m. That did it. Hector's smile faltered, just for a second. I went for a drive, he said. Couldn't sleep. After Elena unlocked the service door, Vega asked. Hector looked at me again. Longer, this time. Careful, he said softly. You're letting them turn family against family. Something snapped inside me. Pause. You turned us against ourselves, I said. My father trusted you. The room went quiet. Hector's voice dropped. I was trying to save us, he said. You think that place was going to last another year? Ibarra leaned forward. So you planned a scare, he said. Insurance, money, fresh start. Hector didn't answer. Pose Vega placed one last item on the table. A charred glove? Found this in your truck, she said. Muchas residue from the accelerant. Hector stared at it. His shoulders slumped just a little. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt, he said. That was the closest thing to a confession. Silence. They took him into custody that evening. As they led him past me, he whispered. I thought he'd be gone by then. I didn't respond, because intentions don't erase outcomes, and excuses don't bring people back. Pause that night. I sat alone in my apartment. The truth was finally clear. TIF fire wasn't an accident. It wasn't random. It was a choice. The arrest didn't bring relief. It brought silence. Pause, the kind that sits heavy in your chest and doesn't leave. By morning, the story was everywhere. Local news vans lined the street outside the courthouse. Headlines screamed words like arson, betrayal, family fire. None of them said my father's name. Not yet. Sigh. The first court hearing was short. Cold. Procedural. Hector stood behind glass, hands cuffed, eyes straight ahead. He didn't look at me. Pause. The prosecutor laid it out plainly. Insurance fraud. Arson. Negligent homicide. Each charge landed like a hammer. Hector's lawyer argued it was circumstantial. No direct witness. No confession. Tragedy, he called it. A misunderstanding. I almost laughed. Pause outside the courtroom. Reporters swarmed. Did he plan the fire? Was money the motive? Did the family know? I kept walking. Because grief doesn't answer questions well. Silence that night. My aunt called. She was crying. He didn't mean it, she said. He was under pressure. I stared at the wall. So was my father, I replied. Pause. The family split fast. Some cut me off completely. Others whispered support. Quietly. Privately. Nobody wanted to choose sides out loud, except me. Silence. I met with the prosecutor 2 days later. She spread documents across the table. Emails. Policy changes. Maintenance logs Hector had altered. This wasn't impulse, she said. It was preparation. I nodded. Because deep down, I already knew. Pause. And she said something that stuck with me. Truth doesn't heal families, she said, but lies destroy them faster. I carried that sentence home with me. Silence. That evening, I stood outside the burned warehouse. Blackened beams, broken glass, the smell still clinging to the air. This wasn't just a crime scene. It was a line. Once grosset. Nothing goes back. I didn't expect the email. Pause. It arrived just after midnight. No subject line. No name. Just one sentence. You should check the locker. Silence. At first, I thought it was a prank. Or worse. Cruelty. But something about it felt deliberate. I didn't sleep. Pause. The locker was still there. Unit 317. My father's old storage space at the warehouse complex. The fire had spared that row. Barely. When I unlocked it, the hinge screamed. Inside were boxers I had never seen. Not tools. Not equipment. Paperwork. Pa's old contracts. Handwritten notes. And a small red notebook, scorched at the edges. My father's handwriting. I knew it instantly. Silence. The first page stopped me cold. If something happens to me, it wasn't an accident. Pause. My hands started shaking. Page after page detailed what he'd noticed in the months before the fire. Safety inspections skipped. Emergency systems disabled. Invoices rewritten after hours. And one name, over and over, Hector. Silence. There was even a date circled in black ink. 3 days before the fire. He knows I won't sign. My father had written. He's desperate. Pause. I sat on the concrete floor for a long time, listening to my own breathing. Silence. I brought the notebook straight to the prosecutor. She read silently, didn't interrupt, didn't blink. This changes everything, she finally said. Pause. It wasn't just arson anymore. It was intent, premeditation. A decision made long before flames ever rose. Silence. That night, I thought about Hector. How close he had been to us. How easily trust becomes access. Pause. The email sender was never identified. But whoever it was, they wanted the truth out. The courtroom felt smaller than I expected. Pause. To quiet. Too tight. Every sound echoed. Even breathing. I sat in the front row, hands locked together, trying not to look back. Silas Hector sat just a few meters away. Clean suit, calm face. Like this was just another meeting he planned to win. Pause. The prosecutor opened with facts, dates, reports, numbers. But facts don't make people feel anything. Stories do. Silence. Then the first witness was called. I didn't expect it to be her. Pasmara, my father's former assistant. She walked slowly, shoulders tense, eyes fixed on the floor. Silence when she spoke. Her voice trembled. She told the jury about late-night calls, about files she was told to alter, about inspections that never happened. Pause. Then she said something that sucked the air out of the room. He told me. If your father didn't cooperate, there would be consequences. Silence. Hector's jaw tightened. Just for a second. But I saw it. Pause. The defense tried to crush her. Called her bitter. Called her careless. Called her unreliable. But then the prosecutor held up an email. Printed. Time-stamped. Sent at 2:14 a.m. Silence. Mara confirmed it. She hadn't imagined anything. Pause. Next came the fire expert. He explained how the blaze started. Not random. Not electrical. Accelerant. Placed intentionally. Silence. Every word felt heavier than the last. And then? The judge looked at Hector. Pause for the record, she said. The court finds probable cause to continue. Silence. Hector finally turned toward me. Just once. No anger. No fear. Just calculation. Pause. That's when I understood something terrible. This wasn't over. It was only tightening. Silence. Silence. I didn't sleep that night. Pause. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Hector's face. Calm, controlled. Like nothing could touch him. Silence. The next morning, my phone buzzed before sunrise. Unknown number. Pause. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Deep breath. Don't speak, a woman whispered. Just listen. Silence. I froze. She told me to check my email. Now. Pause. I opened it. One file. No message. Just an attachment. Silence. An audio recording. I hesitated, then pressed play. Pause. At first, it was static. Then voices. Low. Muffled. But familiar. Silence. One of them was Hector. I knew his tone instantly. Smooth. Measured. Dangerously calm. Pause. The other voice sounded nervous. Male. Younger. I couldn't place him at first. Silence. Then Hector spoke clearly. If the inspection goes through, he said, everything collapses. Pause. My chest tightened. The other man asked, and if they don't cooperate? Silence. Hector didn't hesitate. Then the problem removes itself. Pause. I stopped breathing. Silence. The recording ended abruptly. No names. No date. But I knew. Pause. This wasn't just corruption. It was intent. Silence. I tried calling the number back. Disconnected. Gone. Pause. I sat there, staring at the wall. Hands shaking. Heart racing. Silence. Who sent this? And why now? Pause. That afternoon, I went somewhere I hadn't planned to. The old maintenance office. The one my father used to visit every Friday. Silence. The building was half abandoned. Paint peeling, lights flickering. Pause. I found Luis there. The former site supervisor. The man who survived the fire. Silence. His face changed when he saw me. Fear. Not surprise. Pause. I didn't want this, he said quickly. I swear. Silence. I played the recording. Just the first few seconds. That was enough. Pause. Luis broke down. Shaky breath. He told me Hector had pressured him for months. Threats. Money. Warnings. Silence. And the night of the fire. I asked. Pause. Luis looked away. I was told not to be there. Silence. That was it. That was the missing piece. Pause. I left knowing one thing for sure. T's case wasn't T. About revenge anymore. It was about stopping someone who thought he was untouchable. Silence. Silence. I didn't go home. Pause. I drove straight to the courthouse. Hands tight on the wheel. Jaw clenched. Silence. Every red light felt like a warning. Every green one felt borrowed. Deep breath. I parked 2 blocks away. Didn't want to be seen. Pause. Inside. The building smelled like old paper and cold coffee. Quiet. Too quiet. Silence. I asked for the prosecutor. No names. Ju said it was urgent. Pause. They brought me to a small room. Gray walls. One table, 2 chairs. Silence when she walked in. She looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from losing cases you know are wrong. Pause. I told her everything. Slowly. Carefully. Silence the fire. The inspection. Hector. The recording. Pause. I slid my phone across the table. She didn't touch it at first. Just stared. Silence. Once I hear this, she said. I can't unhear it. Pause. I nodded. She pressed play. Silence. Her face changed halfway through. Brows tight. Lips pressed thin. Pause when it ended. She exhaled hard. Quiet. This isn't enough on its own, she said, but it's a start. Silence. A start. That word felt heavy. Pause. She asked who else knew. Primera Said. No one. That was a lie. Silence. She leaned in. Listen to me, she said. If you're right, this man won't stop. Pause. I felt a chill run up my spine. Silence. She told me to leave the city, just for a few days. Let us move quietly, she said. Pause. I agreed, but I didn't leave. Silence that night. Someone followed me. I noticed the headlights first. Too steady. Too patient. Pause. Every turn I made, they made. Silence. I pulled into a crowded gas station. Bright lights, people everywhere. Pause. The car slowed, then drove past. Silence. I stood there, shaking, heart pounding in my ears. Deep breath. That's when I understood. This was no longer about the past. Pause. It was about survival. Silence. The next morning. My doorbell rang. Once firm. Pause. I looked through the peephole. 2 men. Dark jackets. No badges. Silence. One of them smiled. Not friendly. Careful. Pause. We just want to talk, he said. I didn't open the door. Pause. I kept my hand on the lock, and my eye on the peephole. Silence. The man smiled again. Too calm. Too practiced. We know this is uncomfortable, he said, but we can help. Pause. Help. That word felt wrong. Silence. I asked who they were. They didn't answer. Instead, the second man spoke. Your father was respected, essayed softly. People would hate to see his name dragged through something messy. Pause. My stomach dropped. Silence. This isn't about his name, I replied. It's about the truth. Pause. The smile faded. Hustalitla. Silence. We're asking you to be careful, the first man said. Things can spiral. Pause. I felt my heart pounding. Not fear. Anger. Silence. I've already been careful, I said. For too long. Pause. There was a long pause. Then the man leaned closer to the door. Lowered his voice. Silence. Some fires don't stay contained. Pause. That was it. Warning. Silence. I told them to leave. Firm. Clear. Pause. They didn't argue. Didn't threaten. They just turned and walked away. Silence. I slid down against the door, breathing hard. Deep breath. This wasn't subtle anymore. Pause. I called the prosecutor. Left a message. Short. Urgent. Silence. Then I packed a bag. Just in case. Pause. That afternoon, the news broke. Hector Vale, charged with multiple counts of conspiracy and arson. I stared at the screen. Silent. The story didn't mention my father. Not yet. Pause. But it mentioned new evidence. Audio witnesses. Internal records. Silence. I knew then. The walls were closing in. Paused that night. I slept somewhere else. Lights on. Phone charged. Door locked. Door locked. Door locked. Silence. At 3:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. One message. No name. Pause. You did the right thing. Silence. I didn't reply. Just stared at the ceiling. Softly, because doing the right thing doesn't always feel right. Silence. The courtroom felt smaller than I expected. Pause to quiet. Too tight. Silence. I sat in the second row. Hands folded. Jaw locked. Deep breath. Hector Vale walked in wearing a calm smile. Like this was a meeting, not a reckoning. Pause. When he looked at me, he nodded. Just once. Silence. The prosecutor began. Slow. Careful. This case, she said, is not about one fire. It's about a pattern. Pause. Screens lit up. Maps, dates, connections. Silence. One by one. The stories lined up. Different buildings, different years, same signatures. Pause. I felt something shift. Not relief. Recognition. Silence. Then came the audio. A phone call. Distorted. But clear enough. Pause. Make it look accidental, a voice said. Timing matters. Silence. The room didn't move. No coughing. No whispers. Pause. That voice. I knew it. Softly, I'd heard it at family dinners. Silence. My father. Pause. The defense jumped up. Speculation, they said. Coincidence. Silence, but then a witness took the stand. A former associate, hands shaking. Pause. I was paid to stay quiet, he said, until I couldn't anymore. Silence. He described envelopes, late-night calls, threats disguised as favors. Pause. I closed my eyes. Deep breath. This was the truth. But it still hurt. Silence. The judge called for a recess. People stood. Chairs scraped. Pause. Hector Vale leaned toward his lawyer, whispered something, then looked at me again. Silence this time. No smile. Pause. Outside the courtroom. My phone rang. Unknown number. Silence. I let it go to voicemail. Pause. The message came seconds later. Softly. Whatever happens, remember who started this. Silence. I deleted it. Pause. Pause? When court resumed, the prosecutor rested her case. The room held its breath. Silence. The defense stood and said, one sentence. Pause. The state will regret opening this door. Silence. C. To conceal evidence. Silence. Guilty. Pause. My hands started to shake. I pressed them together. Silence. When the final count was read, the courtroom exhaled. Some cried. Some stared. Pause. I felt empty. Silence. The judge set sentencing for a later date. A formality, they said. Pause's deputies led Hector away. He stopped. Turned back. Silence. He searched the room. Found me. Pause. I told you, he said, calmly. Doors swing both ways. Silence. The bailiff pulled him forward. The moment passed. Pause. Outside. Reporters swarmed. Questions flew. Do you feel justice was served? Was it worth it? Silence. I didn't answer. Pause. Because the truth was heavy. Justice didn't feel clean. It felt expensive. Silence. That night, I sat alone. Lights off. Phone face down. Pause. I thought about what I'd lost. My father. My name. The version of my life that felt safe. Silence. And what I'd gained. The truth. Pause sometimes. That's all you get. Silence. Weeks later, sentencing came. Decades behind bars. No chance of appeal. Pause. When the gavel fell, the sound echoed. Not loud, but lasting. Silence. I walked out of the courthouse for the last time. Sun in my eyes. Pause. The city kept moving. Cars passed. People laughed. Silence. Life didn't pause for justice. It never does. Pause, but I kept walking. Forward. Silence. The verdict was over. But the weight of it wasn't. Pause. People think justice is an ending. It's not. Silence. It's a door that closes while another one opens. Deep breath. I went back to the house a week later. The one everyone avoided. Pause. It smelled like dust and old air. Like something unfinished. Silence. I stood in the doorway for a long time. Didn't move. Didn't speak. Pause. I wasn't afraid. I was tired. Silence. Every room held echoes. Not voices. Memories. Pause. I didn't pack everything. Just the things that mattered. A photo. A watch. A folded note I'd never opened before. Silence. I sat on the floor and finally read it. Pause. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't an excuse. It was a confession without courage. Silence. I didn't know how to stop. It said, so I let it burn. Pause. I folded the note back up. Carefully. Silence. Some truths don't need answers. They just need to be seen. Pause. When I locked the door for the last time, I didn't look back. Silence. Not because it didn't matter, but because it mattered too much. Pause. I moved cities. Changed routines. Found quiet in places I never expected. Silence. Some nights are still loud. The kind where memories show up uninvited. Pause. But they don't own me anymore. Silence. People ask if I forgive him. Pause. I don't know. Forgiveness feels like a luxury. Peace feels more honest. Silence. What I do know is this. The fire didn't take everything. Pause. It tried, but it fighted. Silence. I'm still here. Still breathing. Still choosing what comes next. Pause. And that's the part they never planned for. Silence.